Morning sunlight spilled into the small house in Portland, illuminating every dust particle drifting in the air. Jonah Whitlock slowly opened his eyes on the old sofa. His body ached after a restless night's sleep. Then a faint sound rose from the kitchen, the clink of a spoon against a cup, just like everyone else, who kept the building running, while she collected the credit. Before we continue this incredible story, if you believe in the power of kindness and love stories that remind us what really matters, please subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling us about a time when someone's kindness changed your perspective. Your support helps us share more stories that warm the heart and inspire the soul. Soft footsteps. Jonah jerked upright. He turned his head, and his heart seemed to freeze mid-beat. A woman was standing in the kitchen, her hair slightly tousled, the early light wrapping around each soft strand. On her body was his white shirt, the very shirt he'd tossed over the chair last night. She was making coffee, her movements calm, as if she had belonged to this kitchen for a long time. She turned around. A thin smile flickered at the corner of her lips. "Do you really not remember anything from last night?" Jonah swallowed hard. His voice was hoarse, uneven. "Wait, who are you?" The woman set the coffee cup down on the table slowly, as if savoring every bit of tension lingering in the room. "The woman whose life you saved," she said gently like a breeze. "And also the owner of the company that currently holds this house." Jonah shot to his feet. The room seemed to spin for a second. His heart pounded hard, every vein throbbing at his temples. From the hallway came a burst of giggles. Tessa, his daughter, peeked her head out of the bedroom door. Her blue eyes sparkled with curiosity. The woman looked at Tessa, then back at Jonah. In her eyes was something both unfamiliar and dangerous, as if she were hiding a secret he hadn't yet touched. "We need to talk, Jonah. If you're wondering how all of this began, remember the storm." Jonah Whitlock, 36 years old, a mechanical engineer who once worked for a major company in Seattle. Now he is just a freelance repairman in Portland, fixing leaking pipes, running electrical wiring for old houses. Any job that pays he takes. His daughter, Tessa, 7 years old, eyes blue as a summer sky, blonde hair tied high behind her head. She is Jonah's entire universe. Even though life is always a struggle, Jonah still teaches her one thing. "Tessa, we may be poor, but we never give up. Understand?" She nodded. And strangely, Tessa understood life more than most children her age. But that night, that fateful night, began with a storm. Rain poured down on the streets of Portland. Thunder roared across the sky. Jonah drove his old truck home after a 12-hour shift. His shirt was soaked with sweat and engine oil, his hands trembling from exhaustion. The truck swayed on the flooded road. The headlights flickered in the thick curtain of rain. Then he saw it. A luxury car lay tilted on the roadside. Its front end rammed into a tree. White smoke rose from the hood. Instinct took over. He pulled over, the old truck shuddering to a halt. Through the downpour, he saw a figure slumped over the airbag. He didn't think. He grabbed his toolbox and ran. The driver's side door was crumpled, but gave way after several desperate pulls. Inside was a woman unconscious, a trickle of blood tracing a path from her temple. Her clothes were expensive, out of place in this battered scene. He checked her pulse. It was there, strong but frantic. The smoke from the engine was getting thicker. He worked quickly, using a crowbar to pry her free from the seatbelt, his engineer's mind assessing the structural integrity of the wreckage. Knowing they had only moments, he half-dragged, half-carried her to his truck, laying her carefully on the back seat, just as a small lick of flame appeared under the luxury car's hood. He sped towards the nearest hospital, but as they neared the city lights, a groan came from the back. "No hospitals," she whispered, her voice ragged but firm. "Please take me somewhere safe, just for the night." Her eyes, now open, were a startling grey, sharp and imploring despite her injury. Against every sane judgment, something in her plea resonated with the protector in him. He thought of Tessa, asleep and safe at home, and made a decision he couldn't explain. He drove her to his small, shabby house. He helped her inside, cleaned the cut on her head, and gave her his shirt while hers dried by the heater. She was in shock, disoriented, and fell into a deep sleep on the sofa almost immediately. He took the chair, watching over her, until exhaustion claimed him too. And now, in the stark morning light, she stood in his kitchen, an enigma wrapped in his cotton shirt, claiming to own the very roof over their heads. "Your company holds this house?" Jonah managed, his mind racing, through ledgers of overdue bills and the impersonal letters from a property management firm called Veritas Holdings. "Yes, Whitlock. You're 3 months behind on rent. The eviction notice was scheduled to be delivered tomorrow." She took a slow sip of coffee. "My name is Ilara Vance, and I was not in Portland to check on properties. I was coming to see you." Jonah felt the floor drop away. "Me? Why?" "Because before you were a handyman, you were one of the brightest mechanical engineers at Seattle Dynamics. You worked on the prototype for the Orion Drive." Jonah's blood ran cold. The Orion Drive was the project that had ended his career, a revolutionary engine design he'd believed in, whose core component had failed catastrophically during a test, leading to his very public scapegoating and dismissal. He'd left Seattle in disgrace, his reputation in tatters. "That was a long time ago," he said, his voice tight. "I have nothing to do with that anymore." "The failure was not your fault, Jonah," Ilara said, her gaze unwavering. "It was sabotage, and the same people who framed you have been slowly absorbing my father's company, Veritas Holdings, piece by piece. They used his investments, including this property portfolio, to launder money and fund their ongoing work. My father suspected it. He was going to meet with you, believing you were the only one who could understand the technical discrepancies and help him prove it. He died in a car accident last month. The pieces began to click into a terrifying puzzle. Your accident last night was not an accident," she finished. "They know I'm digging. I think they tried to kill me. Coming to you was my last resort. You're off their radar. You're a ghost. And you have a very personal reason to want to bring them down." From the hallway, Tessa's voice, small and clear, pierced the tension. "Daddy, is the lady okay?" Jonah looked from his daughter's concerned face to Ilara's resolute one. This was the storm he had pulled her from, but a far greater one was rolling into their lives. Ilara's next words confirmed it. "I need your help, Jonah. I need you to look at the data. The blueprints, everything. Help me find the proof. In return, I will not only clear your name, but I will guarantee you and Tessa security. This house will be yours. Whatever you need." Jonah thought of the struggle, the constant fear of Tessa losing the only stability she'd ever known. He thought of the professional grave he'd been buried in, and he looked at Ilara Vance, a woman who carried danger in her grey eyes, but also a sliver of vindication he'd thought lost forever. The mysterious woman in his shirt didn't just want shelter. She wanted to start a war, and she needed his mind to wage it. What she was about to say next would change everything. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper meant only for him. The flawed component, the one that failed. It was manufactured perfectly to your specifications. But the test data was altered. I have the original files, and they point to a man who is now the head of R&D at Seattle Dynamics. We can expose him. We can expose all of them, but we have to move quickly. They think I'm dead. We have perhaps 48 hours before they realize I'm not." Jonah Whitlock, the repairman, looked at his calloused hands, then at his daughter's trusting eyes. The path of never giving up had just veered into uncharted, perilous territory. He nodded slowly. The story was only beginning to unfold.